was Gavaskar, the real master. Just like a wall, we couldn't know Gavaskar at all. Not at all. You know the West Indies couldn't know Gavaskar at all.
Hello and welcome to episode 35 of the No Balls Cricket Podcast. Yeah, we've gone past the messing up the intro.
Yeah,
we're done.
I think you have to do it now.
Yeah, that is Siddhant Pradhan, the no longer injured cricketer. He's back on his feet, but still university and club cricketer. This is Aditya Devat, the so supposedly respected journalist. We will get into respected journalists later in this episode.
Oh, sorry. Before we go on, I have a plea to any cricket fans in Manchester. Please, for the love of God, tell me where I can buy a cricket bag. I'm not traveling all the way to Ashton-under-Lyme, man. It's too far.
Does Grey Nichols not have a website or something that you can order from?
Do I really want to order a bat online? No, you have to buy a cricket bat properly. You have to go to the shop, pick out the one you want, play a few cover drives.
Go to Sports Direct.
What, you don't think I've been to Sports Direct already? I even went to Decathlon. They don't have any.
Okay, fine. Okay, we will track this. SP's search for a bat.
And on the off chance that I actually do end up getting a bat and I have to travel all the way to Ashton-under-Lyme.
Anyway, moving on with the episode. We're just gonna launch into the roundup. I'll focus on the non-India stuff first. So Sri Lanka had a T20 series in Australia that ended 4-1 to the Aussies. I don't think anyone's surprised by Australia dominating that series. Sri Lanka had a few good moments, but just not at the same level. Yeah, unless you really want to make fun of Sri Lanka for anything, I'm just going to move on.
No, not really. I mean, I just wanted to say one thing because I saw in the last game they played Lahiru Kumara and Chamira together. And it made a huge difference. Obviously, they restricted Australia and ended up winning the game. So maybe, this could be something for them to ponder over when they actually do play the World Cup later on in the year. Is that spin doesn't work in Australia, especially finger spin. So,
Yeah, Hasaranga is still going to be a key player for them, I think. But I think we saw in the World Cup they had their moments. They were competitive, but just couldn't get over the line, and that was pretty much the same thing here. Some lessons learned, basically.
Yeah, also, just one thing before we move on. The other thing that they managed to do in the last game that I didn't speak of was Kushal Mendes came in and he made a 50 and then won them the game. So, a little bit of experience, but also raw pace in the middle overs. That was the key for me, I felt.
Yeah, and their batting has been weak in recent years, especially in T20. So that's Kushal Mendes is part of the solution for that. Across the pond, as it were, from Australia, though we don't usually use that phrase, New Zealand absolutely thrashed South Africa in the first test match.
Please don't say across the pond, it's across the Tasman. Call it by its proper name. You're in the antipodes.
I'm not. I'm in the US, you're in England. Across the pond is the phrasing we use, regardless. But fine, across the Tasman.
Anyway, yeah.
Across the Tasman then, New Zealand absolutely thrashed South Africa in the first test match there. It was just, I think the first innings ended with South Africa 95 all out, and then they only scored about 16 more runs the second time around. In between, New Zealand just dominated. Matt Henry comes in from nowhere and takes, what was it, 7 for?
Yeah, he took 7 for 25, I believe, in that first inning.
Just remember that this is someone who will not get into their first choice bowling lineup, and he's coming in and taking 7 wickets.
But that's New Zealand on a green seamer. Well, they won the toss, and Christchurch has always been a bit of a green seamer, and picked up 7 for 25. But the thing to note from that is that they made a raft of changes from the last test against India. They handed debuts to Sarel Irwi and Glenton Sturman. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Any Afrikaners willing to correct me, you go ahead. I don't speak Afrikaans, not my thing. They were also missing Anrik Nokia, obviously.
And
but
Keegan
also-
Peterson because of COVID
Keegan
reasons.
Peterson, Keegan Peterson missed the tour because he got COVID. So Aiden Markram was moved down to bat at number 3. Not that it made much of a difference. He still got rolled over for 95. But bit of an experience in there. Also, remember Quinton de Kock is no longer part of the test team.
Yeah, but I honestly don't know how much of a miss he is now. Obviously, he's a great batter, but I think his test form had been suffering for a while. So,
I mean, not saying anything about that. The other thing is they dropped 4 catches in that New Zealand innings, and when you do that, they're going to rack up a score. And 495 they got in the first innings, and obviously then after that it's an uphill battle. But then again, it's weak, feeble resistance, and it just goes to show how poor India's batting really was in South Africa.
Yeah, we've not really done a full postmortem of the India series just because of all the drama that came out of it. But yeah, in India, I think we're poor all around. Their bowling wasn't that great either, and batting really suffered against South Africa.
Yeah, and it just goes to show in general how things can change in an instant.
Also how tough it is to bat for any visiting side in New Zealand. And apart from that one-off shock Bangladesh result late last year, I mean, we saw India go, I think, what was it, Jan 2020, and just get rolled over in all the matches they played in the test there, and like just continues to happen.
No, it's a tough place to play cricket, and the fact in New Zealand you almost always have a 2-test series against them, and not more. Adds to the sort of difficulty in that. Plus, also, if you go into a test match with a bowling attack that includes, and this is what they played, right? Matt Henry, Trent Bolt, Tim Southee, Neil Wagner, and Colin de Grandhomme. No spinner.
Yep. Do we want to get into a debate about how bad a pitch it is if you bowl people out for 95 on the first day, finish a test match in 3 days, and don't pick spinners at all?
Well, I mean, when you score 495, it doesn't really hold true, does it? I wouldn't.
No,
I said that. He's trying to rock the boat, but it doesn't hold. Trying to rock the boat, but it doesn't.
I'm just saying, in other contexts, there would be a bad pitch conversation happening. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Just leave it at that. That's again for all of the. For all of the, let's put it this way, no, I'm not trying to be racist here, but let all of the white people ponder that one.
Yes, fine.
Yeah. Sticking in New Zealand. Go on.
Go on.
No, you go on. This is yours.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, the India women have been playing a limited over series. I think we'd mentioned last time around that they lost the first, the only T20I. They've gone on to lose the next 3 ODIs as well. They've been fairly competitive games. India New Zealand kind of getting over the line in each time around, though each game has gone into the last over. Bit of a cloud over Harmanpreet Kaur, who's just not had a good ODI run of late. And people are now questioning her place.
I think it's funny that they're questioning Harmanpreet Kaur, because if you look at that series, they made, other than the first game, the other 2 they've lost after making scores of 270 and 280. New Zealand have chased down both of those. And I think the more pressing issue is the lack of a recognized third seamer. And I think
the seam attack is still relying on Jhulan Goswami, who, by the way, bowled some magic balls across the series. But
I understand that. Pooja Vastrakar is a bit loose, let's put it that way. But then when you have someone of the quality of Shikha Pandey, why not play her?
And the selections and both in terms of squad and in terms of 11s have, I think, just probably deserve an entire episode on their own, which we will get into when we're previewing the Women's World Cup, which is soon. But yeah, so the only point I'm making about Harmanpreet Kaur is, she's since that World Cup in 2017, where she had obviously that great innings against Australia, where she had 171 and she hit a 50 in the final. She's hit 250s in 30 innings since then. Around that.
She also made that batting at number 4, and she's consistently batted lower than that in the order. That may have something to do with it. Possibly. But it's also just a chronic lack of form. Having said that, she's done really well in franchise cricket.
Yeah, she has. She's just not translating to ODIs yet. Yeah,
Moving on from New Zealand now.
I think in terms of roundup, we've got pretty much everything covered.
The only thing we've missed out is India beating the West Indies 3-0 in the T20I series as well. And that leads us directly into the next segment, which is our main segment of the episode.
We should mention that both of us got our predictions wrong, because we both predicted the ODI series, right?
I got the ODI right.
Yeah. But we both thought India would lose the T20 series, and they actually won 3-0, which is surprising.
So here we go into our main segment. Right. Where do we begin with this T20I series, honestly? I will say this. The West Indies at least put up a fight here. I think the one-day series was sort of meek surrender. But at least in the T20Is, they sort of put up some fight. The second game in particular was rather close. Even yesterday, when they had a bit of a go at the lower order in particular, when Puran and Super Mario were batting.
Super Mario.
I should get my hat out for him. But then he went Mario.
Yes. I mean, he basically kind of gave the game away with the ball anyway, but tried getting some of it back. Yeah, tried getting some of it back with the bat.
Okay, let's start with the ODIs, because they were, just their inability to bat 50 overs is what's holding them back there.
Yeah, because their bowling showed up. I honestly, for at least at the start of most innings, they were getting, and especially Azari Joseph, they were getting some good results there, but the batting just wasn't up to par.
No, not at all. And I think that's been their big problem. I think in ODI cricket, you need to have someone who can merge the two styles. Whereas, especially in India now with the earlier starts, you're getting conditions that do favor bowling the bowlers a bit more than they normally are. Where we've all grown up in an era where basically the bowlers used to get pasted all over the place. But now more and more you start seeing that the scores are actually sort of becoming a bit lower, and it's not the 320 or 350 that you're used to.
The 350 plays 350 games are gone. I don't know what's happening.
Well, there was a very noticeable shift as soon as they brought the start time back by an hour. In earlier days, I think before 2013, all of the before 2014 rather, all of the ODIs would start at 2:30, but they brought the start time back an hour, and since then there's been a noticeable lowering of the average score in a one-day game, and that's also obviously leading almost directly to the fact that the dew doesn't come.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference. It's especially for bowling second, where before chasing in India was pretty much the blueprint for winning any game.
But also the other thing is, I think the pitches have become a bit drier and a bit more difficult to bat on in general, and that's also brought the score down.
Yeah, that's what I felt from this series. That these aren't just complete roads of flat tracks where people can just blaze away and get 100 or 70 balls, and we're all playing, getting the 350, 370, whatever. The pitches have slowed down a bit. Yeah, no, definitely.
With that in mind, and remember, Ahmedabad was it wasn't the nicest of pitches to bat on, and that it's shown in the scores that you got in the three games. We chased down 176 in the first game. We were out for 230 in the second game, and even the third game was a relatively low scoring.
Yeah, 265 was the highest score either side made across 6 innings, which is really rare for ODI cricket these days.
Yeah.
Some quick notes. India really tried being a little experimental with that Rishabh Pant opening experiment in one game.
Yeah, that was a bit bizarre, but I think that was just a one-off. They did experiment in the last game as well, giving moving Shreyas Iyer up to 3, Rohit Sharma batting at 4, for example. But you look back on the series and think the West Indies are just a poor side, honestly, and now it's.
I think you're confusing the ODIs with the T20s, by the way, Rohit Sharma.
No, No,
Rohit
you
Sharma
mean
opened in each ODI.
No, Rohit Sharma didn't open in the last T20. That's what I'm saying.
T20s. That's one.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the ODIs. But
Oh, wait, sorry. Okay, fine. Yeah, so Rishabh Pant opening. Oh, I thought that was in it. I thought he opened in a T20, not the ODI.
no, he opened in the second ODI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So fines for India in the ODI series. I mean, I have to eat my words on Prasidh Krishna.
Yeah, you really do. Man of the series. It was also good to see both him and Siraj make the most of their opportunities. We've been crying out for Siraj to get more limited overs games for India, and he did well in the series. And of course, Prasidh Krishna looks like a good find.
Oh yeah, definitely. A hard hit the deck kind of bowler, and he broke one curse, which was the number of power play wickets. I think he doubled it in the space of one inning, which was
made a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. But then that's also what comes from playing the West Indies. So.
Yeah, that is true.
In terms of their ODI outlook, I think the West Indies need to look beyond a few players, namely their captain.
Yeah. The captain seems like he's more interested in playing for Mumbai than he is for West Indies at the moment.
You also know that your captain has hit absolute rock bottom when everything that Akash Chopra says about him that ends up being right.
Yeah.
I mean, when somebody has some ex-cricketers as clueless as the Star Sports commentary box get things right, yeah, there's no coming back from that. But yeah, no, I mean, the only real find for the West Indies out of that whole thing, I think Akeal Hussain is a fabulous cricketer.
Akeal Hussain is a good find.
I mean, people have known about
Nicholas Puran we knew about, but good to see him do well. Well-ish, but yeah.
Yeah, but he provides something that I don't think anyone else has, and he's a big spinner of the cricket ball, which is always going to be a good thing.
Yeah. And the other thing is that I think now, as much as the Guyana crew doesn't like it, Alzari Joseph needs to be playing a lot more games, especially in limited overs.
No, for sure. And we'll get to that because I think it's a bigger point in the T20s. For India, as you said, Prasidh Krishna was one of the highlights, but also the batting of Surya Kumar Yadav, who
I think Surya Kumar Yadav has pretty much nailed down a spot in India's best 11, probably in both formats, really.
Definitely in both formats now.
Yeah. There were the experience with Deepak Hooda at one point, and Shreyas Iyer came in and played a good innings in the last ODI. But I think Surya Kumar Yadav as the 5 or 6, wherever he slots into the batting lineup, depending on the other series, he's got that spot nailed down.
A very versatile batsman as well, and that's what I really appreciated about him. Right, moving on to the T20Is. Not much difference. You could say India's approach changed a bit. Ishan Kishan opening the batting, but it was Rohit Sharma going hard at the top that made the difference.
Yeah, because actually, though we all really like Ishan Kishan, he did not have a good series.
No.
But yeah, Rohit's change in approach was big, and I think that's something they'd been trying even during the World Cup, and it didn't really come off. But now it's a clear emphasis that we need to go hard at the top.
Yeah, for sure. My favorite bit of the series, however, was not all of that. My favorite bit of the series was Venkatesh Iyer taking a wicket, Shreyas Iyer taking a catch, Murli Kartik saying that it's going to say caught Iyer, bowled Iyer on the scorecard. Harsha Bhogle then went as far as saying that there are Iyers involved everywhere because Murli Kartik's full name is Murli Kartik Iyer. And then the scorecard comes up, caught Shreyas, bowled Venkatesh. Favorite moment of the entire West Indies series.
Yeah. Speaking of, though, Venkatesh Iyer was also a pretty good find, and someone who probably has Hardik Pandya on notice at the moment.
Yeah, and actually, I was quite impressed with the way he bowled in the last game. I know he bowled 2 overs, but he did the job.
Yeah, his figures won't show it because he got hit for 2 boundaries that were both off edges, and then the rest was just regular bowling. Yeah.
Interesting to see a couple of things though. One, Prithvi Shaw not getting picked for either format still surprises me a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. There seems to be an issue where like the management has some It's not even it's an off-pitch thing. I think it has nothing to do with
Yeah, I
his
don't
batting
really know
form.
what's going on either because he's been in tremendous form for Bombay in the Vijay Hazare Trophy and done really well for them.
Yeah.
That was one thing. The other thing was team combinations. They tried across the 6 games. They tried literally every spinner they could find. Ravi Bishnoi is a star.
Yeah, he is. Bishnoi, I think that, and it showed really in the last game because West Indies started that chase hammer and tongs, and then Ravi Bishnoi turned that game around.
Yeah, and in a game where you end up with figures of 2 for 23 from your 4 in a 9-over game, that's unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
But we also have to give credit to Super Mario for shitting the bed epically in the final couple of overs. I mean, the way he got...
and that also brings out the other good player that we've got from the series, which is Harshal Patel, who's been knocking on the door for a while, and he had a really good series across all the matches. He's got that cutter down to perfection, and it's a really good weapon.
I would, however, prefer to see either Siraj or Prasidh Krishna in the T20 squad over Avesh Khan. I know he only had one game, but for some reason, and I'm not saying this is nothing against Avesh Khan. My personal preference would just be to see one of them to see how they do.
Let's just say that you do want to be stronger with your opinions. It's just that you don't want to end up eating your words again, so you're not doing it.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm going down a different route. I personally, at this point, don't feel Avesh Khan is ready for international cricket. But again, only time will tell.
I think let's just say that in the spirit of our podcast title, that man has no balls, and that's why he's not giving us his real opinion.
I've given you my real opinion 110 times. This is my honest opinion. Look, I have nothing against him. It's not that I don't like him as much as I thought DK was a fraud or something like that. Which I still do in cricketing terms. Commentator, however, different story. But I just don't feel he's ready for international cricket. I don't think he has enough about him to be a threat in either of the 2 limited overs formats. And I think that's somewhere that both Prasidh Krishna and Siraj have in abundance. And Siraj, you've already seen enough of him in Test cricket to know that he's got it. Whether he can translate it, and Josh Hazelwood, the way he's bowled in T20, proves that you can translate. So
you can, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think the only thing I'd say is Avesh Khan is coming off a good IPL. I wouldn't judge his international standards based on one game, though it wasn't a good performance. No doubt about that. But if he gets,
I mean, who knows? If he gets
more games,
I'm not saying it isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, personal choice, I don't agree with it.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I will. Let's just see if you
and again, don't get me wrong. There's nothing I dislike about Avesh Khan. Unlike what I have said about Prasidh Krishna.
Right.
And then I have to eat my words.
Yeah. I think the only time you've really been right is about Shahbaz.
I mean, I was right about DK as well. And don't try and tell me stats will prove me wrong, because I don't consider stats against fucking Bangladesh and Zimbabwe.
All right.
Right?
Watch DK make a comeback into the World Cup squad this year after leading RCB to a title as captain.
I said it last year and I'm saying it again this year. If Dinesh Karthik, and I didn't have to do it last time because he didn't make the squad, but if Dinesh Karthik makes the T20 World Cup squad this year, I will grow a mustache.
All right. I'm praying for this now.
Imagine last year it didn't happen.
Imagine if he becomes RCB captain and then becomes a guy to finally lead that franchise to a title, coming in after Virat Kohli.
Twitter will explode. On that very happy note, we have
Speaking of Twitter exploding. Yes.
Speaking of Twitter exploding, it is time to move on from our India versus West Indies segment and move into our segment called Typos. Okay, so the segment's basically about this so-called respected journalist who apparently speaks in P language.
Yes, speaking of typos, this was going to be a rant about cricket journalism in general, but there is one specific journalist that we need to talk about first. And so just for context, SP is going to put this tweet up anyway, but I'll summarize it. Basically, Wriddhiman Saha got dropped from the test squad that's been picked for the Sri Lanka series that's coming up. And he also apparently has been told by team management that he's effectively, like, his test career is pretty much over because they are looking for a younger backup keeper. He's 37 years old, so there's no point in him.
I mean, it makes his dropping makes sense, but that's not the story here.
Yeah, exactly. So Saha puts up a screenshot of a WhatsApp chat that he's had with some journalist, still unnamed, where the journalist is telling him about, I can do an interview with you. Do you want to do one with me, or do you want to be democratic and choose a particular journalist or whatever? And then when he doesn't get a response from Saha, he at the end of this conversation, he's just like, "Oh, I can't believe you've insulted me like this. I will remember this," etc., etc. And then he's like effectively threatened Saha's whatever remains of Saha's career.
Saha has since flip-flopped as well and said that he's not going to name the journalist, but because he wants to apparently protect his career. But
yes, we pretty much, I think, cricket Twitter has pretty much deduced which journalist it is, and it's not a surprise to anyone who's been following Indian cricket over the last 20 years.
Not surprise at all.
Yes. Yeah. I've never understood how Boria Majumdar got to be such an influential person. He clearly, I guess, early on in Sourav Ganguly's career, he was just someone who sort of latched on to Ganguly and then made a career out of it. I'm guessing that's what happened.
Or maybe he just gave that, I'm Bengali, I'm smarter than you kind of vibe. I don't know. You would know more about that than me.
I need to make sure my girlfriend doesn't watch this episode.
I don't think your girlfriend has seen even one episode.
Yeah, this is very true. She's not.
We're safe.
But
I'm in a safe space.
Yes. But yeah, so, and the thing I want to get into about cricket journalism in general, there was this interview that Siddharth Monga, who is genuinely one of the best journalists India has.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he did this interview with Dhoni a few years ago. I think it was 2014 or something like that. There was a cricket monthly piece. Just look it up. It's a really good profile that he did. And in that, he talked about, it would basically got into how Dhoni's been standoffish with the media and the sort of the genesis of that. And he's talked about how for a long time, cricketers and journalists used to have a really good, strong relationship. But it got to the point where a lot of journalists then had certain, and just had a lot more influence than maybe anyone in the media should. So like there was some journalists who had, who were very close to a cricket captain or like the India team captain. And therefore, whenever any young player came in, the journalist would be like, actually, you keep me happy, then I can put in a good word with the captain for you. And, just like basically a very weird, you scratch my back, I scratch yours type thing. And Dhoni didn't really like the fact that there were journalists who had that much power, and that ultimately resulted to why he was so standoffish. And of course, that's just kept on going, in the Kohli era, and I don't know how it'll be under Rohit Sharma, but that is the thing. And it's
I don't think it's going to be much different, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
especially after this.
I don't. Probably not. But and I think we've seen Boria had that thing last year where people were complaining about women's cricket, and he was like, "Listen, you guys don't know what you're talking about. I have a PhD in cricket." Like, we know he's an arrogant, entitled. There are many other words I can think of, but this is what the kind of journalist he is, and it's not that surprising that he's threatening an India player, but it's still quite shocking.
I mean, look, he's an entitled twat. That's all I want to say about Boria. And I'm not going to say anything more. And protected by Ganguly. Well,
which is why Saha's probably not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why Saha's probably not said reveal the name of this journalist, even though we're all sure it's.
I mean, everyone,
because yeah, and it's not just Saha's playing career might be ending, but if he's Bengali, if he wants to be involved with cricket in Bengal, after retiring, he's still gonna have to keep that relationship with Boria for some reason or the other, just to stay relevant and not be completely trash.
I mean, okay, his international career may be over, but his first class career is definitely not. I still think he holds a lot of, and he could be great for the Bengali Ranji Trophy team.
Though I believe he said to not consider him for selection this season, I think is if I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean his domestic career technically could very well go on.
Yeah, exactly. No, but circling back around, I mean, look, I understand they want to be standoffish with the media, but the other difference, and I was reading, so Ayaz Memon has this beautiful collection on Indian history, well, on the history of Indian cricket. Most of it's focused post 1971. And what he's done is he's basically taken newspaper clippings and things like that out and articles that have been written about specific time periods and then compiled them. The introduction to it basically says that in the old days, when you traveled on a tour or something, I think this is pre-1990, you'd only have 4 or 5 journalists in there. So they would be really close with the players, and a lot of them became very good friends. After that, the number of journalists increased. B, with the advent of television and news channels now wanting journalists, and Joy Bhattacharya is the one who's put up something like actually great on Twitter. It's a brilliant thread. I think we should link that because it is quite a long thread, and just it would be a bit of a task to read. But basically, what he's trying to say there is that the advent of television journalists and news channels sending people that weren't cricket experts or cricket journalists, and basically all they wanted were these either a controversial sound bites or something controversial that will make TV, as opposed to an article or a piece that you're actually writing. So for say, someone like what Cricinfo sends to like someone like Shashank Kishore, for example, who will write a whole piece on the game other than doing just the bulletin and actually do an analysis of it. These guys are not there to analyze the game; they just want a soundbite. And I think he goes on to say that is when the attitudes from the players to the media start changing.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It's also, you're also talking about the same time with the advent of television, where players became like that's effectively the beginning of the superstar era, which then kind of automatically makes a lot of players want to have like a little bit of a degree of removal from journalists and people in general, because it's otherwise you've got a billion people clamoring after you. It's a bit overwhelming. And then of course what you're saying, like, and you have the journalists are not as interested in learning about cricketers and their stories. They're just interested in getting quick stories off and quick bites that help sell ratings. And effectively Boria is a product of that.
And I mean, if you look at Boria's entire career, it spanned essentially that era.
Yeah, exactly.
Post television. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about this, honestly, because it's kind of inconceivable to think that a journalist can threaten an international cricketer. I mean, that's bizarre.
It is. And there's no. I mean, I've worked in that field. I have tremendous respect for cricket journalists and sports journalists and the media in general, but I can never imagine having that level of influence and that level of, like, I guess, self-entitlement to think that I could, I could just say I could be that sort of, project that level of power to an international cricketer. Like, it's just not possible.
No, absolutely. Anyway, on that very somber note, we will now move quickly into my favorite segment of the show. It is called No Balls Cricket Awards. Take it away.
All right. Where are we starting? We are starting from, we need to start from the very little No Balls Award. Alex Hales, which I will let you describe.
And there's 2. No, let's begin with Mitchell Starc, because that's the no ball.
First, I wanted to end with Starc, but all right. You can. I thought you'd start with Hales.
No, start with Starc. We'll go to Hales after. It's more fun.
Okay.
So so this is a sort of more literal, like, actual no ball award, and then we'll talk about the other no balls award in a second.
Yes. we normally give out this kind of award to if you've taken a wicket off a no ball, but this delivery just, even though there was no wicket taken, this delivery just deserves. It needs to be there. If there's a Hall of Fame of no balls delivered in cricket, this needs to be. This would be enshrined. It is such this Mitchell Starc delivery.
This one is up there with Mohammad Amir.
No, that comes with a lot. That comes with too much controversy. This is just a genuinely bad ball.
Okay, stop talking. Enjoy.
After that injury. Oh, Bushka. Wow. No ball, free hit, 4. Not much else to say. Well, I was going to say Harmison-like, but it wasn't even that. Gee whiz. Must have slipped out of the hand. I don't reckon I've ever seen a ball go that wide while being commentating. Had to be the off-cutter.
Got to be the off-cutter, yeah.
It's like, I need to talk a little bit because I need to explain this for the audio. But it's shoulder height and also so wide that has gone for 4 wides, but has been called a no ball because it's...
No, it's not even shoulder height. It's about 2 feet above shoulder height and it's gone over the wicketkeeper for 4.
Yes.
It's that bad.
I'm just glad for Mitchell Starc's sake that Shane Warne wasn't commentating during this because he would have had a lot to say.
That is Mitchell Starc. So you are our first winner of the No Balls Cricket Award for this week's No Balls. And then now we have our second winner who has not bowled a no ball, but just somehow managed to end up with literally no balls. This is the clip of Alex Hales getting hit in the jammies during the PSL. And then someone on Twitter did this most brilliant thing where they've linked that clip of him getting hit in the jammies in the PSL to this other clip of him getting hit in the jammies during the 100. Now, if no one has watched the 100, it's a really shit tournament. It exists for God knows what reason, but it has provided us this gem.
You were like Virat Kohli in India. Everywhere I looked on a poster. That has nailed him in the gooly woolly woolies. That is painful.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you're right, Darren. You look like you're in as much pain as he is. That is the woolies. Right, he's going to have to refocus very quickly. I think they should bowl the same delivery.
The same delivery. But I think now Alex Hales is looking for revenge, man. He's going to try to hit this next ball, as hard as possible. Top lead doesn't pitch his ball up.
Absolute nightmare. He's done that to himself.
You said ball the same ball.
He's bowled the same ball. It's a rinse and repeat.
Hales gets hit in the jammies, rolls around for 5 minutes, grabs his breath back, recovers, comes back to bat. The commentators say, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen now? And guess what? Literally the next ball, wham, straight in the jammies one more time.
Yeah, that's some clever video editing. I have to give props to whoever's done that.
Yeah, so Alex Hales, you are our second winner of the No Balls Cricket Award. Well, I should just call it the No Balls Award for this week because I don't know how much you're going to
No Balls Award.
The No Balls Award for this week.
Right, we are moving on to our moral compass / spirit of cricket award, whichever one you want to call it.
Stop it. My moral compass award was the one I gave to Justin Langer. This week's is an actual spirit of cricket award.
Fine. I really just wanted to annoy you.
Yeah, but I know I played that off pretty well though.
Yes. Comes from Nepal playing actually, you know what? I've completely forgotten the details. I'm just blanking.
This is from the ICC World T20 qualifier. It's Ireland versus Nepal.
From Kamal Singh Iree, another youngster shining. There looks to hike that across the line. Andy McBride has ended up on his feet. I don't think they're going to run him out here, and that is brilliant to see. Asif Sheikh, take a bow. We speak so often about where the spirit of cricket has gone in our game, and you see it on show there, because Kamal Singh Iri has accidentally tripped up Andy McBride, and I've got goosebumps here in the commentary box because that's a touching moment. It was accidental, but he could have run him out here, and Asif Sheikh has said no. He said he's not going to do it because of the spirit of the game. That's your nominee for this.
There you go. So there was an option to bunker someone.
Not
didn't happen. Yes, the bowler just chose to not do it. Then in the same game or same ball, in fact.
It's the same ball. It's not even the same. The same ball.
The batters have started running. One is like they've bumped into one of the bowlers and one has slipped, and so he like going to be miles out of his crease, and there's a chance to run him out, and the Nepali wicketkeeper just decides not to take the bails off the stumps and thinking it's an unfair way to get someone out.
Yeah. So well done to Nepal. That is an actual Spirit of Cricket award, and it is one of the few cricketing situations in which I would have done the same thing.
I think honestly, I would probably the running the non-striker out. I would just run.
No. I'm not talking about the bunkered. I'm talking about the actual run out. I would have bunkered if the guy
for sure.
That.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, I agree with you. Guy falling over because he's bumped into the bowler. Yeah, that's an unfair way to get
that's a very unfair advantage. So well done to the Nepali team there. And moving on now.
Moving on to the very last award.
To the very last award of the week. Well, actually two, but we've discussed the previous one in.
We've given Boria his awards to him now.
Boria doesn't deserve this. He's so crap, he doesn't deserve a Nobody's Cricket Award. So on that happy note, this is our last award of the day, and it is our brandly newly minted. Well, actually not newly minted. He's only the second winner of this award. The first winner is, of course, no guesses as to who, Shakib Al Hasan. So you know where we're going with this already. It is the Tantrum of the Week award.
Oh, I'd completely forgotten about that Shakib incident. But thank you for reminding me. Anyway, take it away on James Faulkner.
So apparently, and I mean, look, there have been some ridiculous things happening in the PSL, but this has to be the most bizarre, right? So James Faulkner apparently was so angry that he didn't get paid on time or received inadequate payment that he ended up throwing his helmet and his bat onto the chandelier of a hotel during the PSL. Just
while assuming we're assuming he was storming out in anger. I don't know what was going on, but it is hilarious. You guys have to see the picture.
Why? Just explain this. Why is there a helmet on a chandelier?
I don't know. Fair play for him. I think that's probably the most accurate throw he's ever made, to get that helmet on top of the chandelier.
Also, first of all, who the fuck is still paying James Faulkner to play T20 cricket? He should be paying them.
Well, hang on. Here's the thing. Apparently nobody. According to him, no one's paying him.
And he has the gall to throw a tantrum of this size. But you know what? We salute him.
According to the PCB and the PSL, he is actually getting paid, and he's completely wrong in his complaint. We don't know what's going on there, but the tantrum deserves an award.
Oh, is this the same sort of tantrum? Sorry, this is the same sort of PCB that. Remember, this is from the same country that said they didn't know where Osama bin Laden was.
That is for your. Here's your 1 minute a day, and that
is. I know. I'm sorry, but this is more of a joke than anything. This is not anyway. But yeah. So I don't believe the PCB or the PSL, but I also think James Faulkner is just an idiot for doing that. So I mean, no one's right, everybody's wrong. That's how we end this episode.
I hope someone's at least paid the hotel staff to get the helmet and bat down.
I'm pretty sure the hotel staff would have had to pay a lot of money to get that down, simply because they then keep the bat and the helmet. Right, on that
hilarious note.
On that very happy note, it is time to end. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, next week we will be back with a preview for the 3 test series that will go on at the same time. Plus, if you're watching India and Sri Lanka kickoff on Thursday with 3 T20Is. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good rest of your week.
If you guys are watching on YouTube, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to remain notified of all our videos. And if you're listening to us on audio, we're available on all these platforms, and they include Pocket Casts, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podcast Addict as well.